are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you? You're muted.
Oh, I was trying to say I'm doing great, Blake, but I'm so distracted by this euphoria that I'm feeling after what was a pretty nice appetizer for what's going to be an even better week one. Man, we hit all the stops. We get a sloppy, mud-filled game in Ireland between Kansas State and Iowa State. It was a total fist fight of a football game. And then the night ends with a Japanese kicker who doesn't speak English, who learned how to kick on YouTube. And we got Micah Valledo limping his way down the field to beat Stanford. It was all the stops were hit for the chaos and the reason why we love college football. We could not have asked for a better opening weekend that was just touching on all the bases that we always look for.
Yesterday, I thought, stay with me.
Okay.
I thought it was a really interesting day for the ACC and Big 12.
Okay.
The ACC had a team go into Hawaii and lose to a kicker who didn't know how to kick 7 months ago.
That's not a good look.
It's not a good look.
It's not a good look for Stanford. I don't know if I'd truly identify Stanford as an ACC team still.
I mean, but they are
I know
an
what you
ACC.
mean.
I mean, like they're an ACC team.
They're the ugly stepchild of the ACC.
Yes. The Kansas State game, like I see a lot of people poo-pooing on it, or Iowa State game, and I'm just so happy that we had football that I didn't really care. I didn't care that we didn't have a first down marker, the yellow line. I didn't know where the first down was all day. I didn't really care that we didn't have, like, all of the markers, the field markers were off. I didn't really care about that. As long as we had football, I was okay. But, man, it was a really interesting dilemma to watch Kansas State and Iowa State. I don't know if I would want my team going to Ireland. Now, it's different for Notre Dame. I understand like that. But I don't think that any other teams need to go. Like that, we've had 2 years where it's been kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not against it, but I'm also like not aggressively in favor. Jack Mack of Barstool was pointing this out, that the people in Ireland don't really care about the game. It's kind of just like a vacation for fans of the teams that are playing.
I don't want to go to Ireland.
Isn't LSU playing in Ireland in the season?
No, Brian Kelly said he wanted to play in Ireland because he was Irish, but he kind of
that's what it was.
But he's making a joke out of it. He's kind of making it a joke as like, and he kind of said like he used this. What's the Boston bad Boston neighborhood that he's from? Not Salty.
Southie.
Southie, whatever it is,
maybe.
And he used his Boston accent. He goes, and in saying that, he goes, "Do you think I'm Irish?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, we ain't. Listen, dog. We ain't going to Ireland. These Cajuns took a boat ride with you sons of bitches one time. We ain't doing it again. Okay? So no, we're not going to Ireland. But he wants to. But regardless, I just want games to be home and home.
Yeah, I think that we're getting a little too cute with it. I don't think that the value that we once thought was there with growing the game. Let the NFL do that. I think that it's fun for these kids, but you could very clearly see, and they didn't arrive in Dublin until the end of the week, which was really weird. I would have thought that they would have been there the whole week leading up. They're getting there late. They clearly were not dialed in and completely locked in. There were a lot of surrounding parts to this that created a very adverse situation. Credit to Iowa State for battling through and winning, and Kansas State for fighting as long as they did. But it doesn't really give us the quality of product that I think that we should be rooting for. It'd be a lot cooler if they played in a stadium in the US that maybe doesn't have a college football presence. I don't know where that is off the top of my head, but there are plenty of locations that I think that would be clamoring in the US to have a game like that.
I mean, that you see it happen all the time. I mean, Nevada does it every year. Allegiant Stadium does it every year.
It's a good point.
I mean, you got UNLV, but they don't give two Rudy Poos about UNLV. And speaking of UNLV, how about Dan Mullen's orgy? How about Dan Mullen's orgy?
They gave up 555 yards to Idaho State. Dan Mullen needs to be locked up for thinking that he was going to produce a good team this year with Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji. like he thought that he was going to produce some
Here's
sort
the
of
bad
successful
thing.
outcome.
Here's the bad thing. Orgy was running all over them. He just kept fumbling the football.
Well, but this is my point though. You have two calamitous individuals that can't hold on to the ball. One as a passer, one as a runner, and you're asking them to be this double-headed monster that doesn't work. I'm not paying attention to UNLV this year. That team is going to be ass.
Yeah, it makes me so depressed because I put him in my playoff because I was giving hope to Dan Mullen. I was massive mistake. I will say this. Jalen Daniels, hello. Hello.
No. It is the year 2025. That man is 25
Joe,
or 6 years old. I'm obviously being hyperbolic.
He had more touchdowns than he had incompletions. That's good for any team.
I get that.
I
get that. But we
need
to level set here. We need to level set here just a little bit, though. I'm not letting myself get hyped up on him again. I did that 3 years ago, Blake. 3 years ago.
Well, he got hurt. It's not like he was bad. Can you hear me?
I lost you for a second there, Blake. You still there?
It's not like he got hurt.
I think you're good now.
Okay. Good Lord. Not again. We can't go through this again.
No, I think we just got to give it a second. It actually might be on my end. I think that's the ridiculous part. I think we're good. I think my internet's slowly tapping back in. I think it was.
If you can hear me, put a thumbs up in the chat because it looks like I'm okay on my end, but I'm just all right.
It's on me. It's on me.
He got hurt. I don't want to say that he played bad. All right. Let's get to it here. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share show to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, let's get to this. The SEC implemented this past week that they are going to 9 conference games inside their conference. You and I have talked about this a lot, but they announced it on Friday. What is your thoughts on the SEC? Oh, hold on. Did we have a super chat? Apparently we did. Oh, God.
Oh, we did. We didn't talk about the fight. Do we want to talk about this later when we get to the game?
Fight, K-State or Avery Johnson's family? Good
Avery
Lord.
Johnson's family. Absolutely ridiculous that we talked about this on Hack City this earlier today, and could not have again asked for a more ridiculous week 0 to end up finishing the day with this.
Let me just say this. As a father, there is no way I'm fighting my son in general unless something really, really bad happened. And if it ever happened, it's not going to be in public. You fought your son.
Some families are a little different, though, Blake. This is their way of showing love.
No, grow the fuck up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Grow up. Lot. Look, I'm a parent with 2 kids. Stop that. Stop. You embarrassed. Listen.
It is embarrassing.
I feel bad for Avery Johnson this morning.
Oh, yeah. He played poorly and people are criticizing him. And now he's got to deal with everybody clowning on him because his dad and his brother are like 2 stooges in early.
Duking it out.
Yeah. It's stupid. Stupid.
Very dumb. All right. Let's get to it then. Joe, the SEC implemented this past week that they're going to 9 conference games. You and I have talked about this a lot, but now that it is here and Greg Sankey and everybody have implemented, what are your thoughts? Now, I'm going to give you a little nugget here. Multiple head coaches did their week 0 radio shows. I think Kalen DeBoer, Brian Kelly, and others. Of all the coaches that I heard this week, they all had one thing to say about the 9 conference game schedule. It revolved around the playoff, and it revolved around the strength of schedule and strength of record metric that was changed by the playoff committee. This past week, the playoff committee changed, which we didn't really get to a lot because we had so much going on. But they did change their strength of schedule and strength of record metric of allowing teams into the playoff who go through tough schedules. This week, obviously, the SEC goes to 9 conference games. What are your thoughts about the SEC going to 9 conference games?
when we were talking about this pre-show, I know that like we weren't necessarily on the same page, but I really do think that this was the power play that either Tony Petitti or Greg Sankey needed to put out there as they're jockeying back and forth. I said this when Petitti pitched his barnyard ass 2018 playoff that was so ridiculous that it felt like he was screwing with Sankey, that he was basically putting out there, you don't want to follow what I'm pitching. We're going to start to build momentum for something that is going to be a complete ugly mess. I don't think that there was any legitimate actual support for it. Maybe there were some coaches that wanted it, but I find it hard to believe. Now that there is this emphasis point by the College Football Playoff Committee that they have put out there where strength of schedule means something, I think the chess master that Sankey is saw an opportunity to really pounce. If he built the SEC schedule not only with a 9-game schedule, but also demanding its teams to schedule a Power 4 opponent, there's no reason that they can't occupy 6 or 7 spots if you have enough teams going 9-3 or better. We were discussing this pre-show, and I think that that's what the big pivot point for this is that we're now in a spot where 9-win teams in the SEC, as long as they have a number of big ranked wins and they're not getting blown out by their other losses, we're going to see 9-3 SEC teams get in over most 10-2 teams in other conferences. Strength of victories is now important, and I think that that is what the biggest key for this
and
is.
Strength of losses. Part of the memo, the strength of losses are just as equally big.
So the biggest part with this, Blake, is I do think that this is the move by Sankey that now puts Tony Petitti on his heels. I don't think there's an effective counter he can have.
All right. Just because I'm seeing it in the chat, I'm going to bring this up. The NCAA does not run the college football playoff. It's its own entity. So the NCAA has no regard. I kind of see it in the chat there, so just wanted to kind of clarify that. Number one, I'm going to go back to what you just said in just a moment because I do think it is a power play. However, it's dumb to go to 9 conference games, in my opinion. I've been very vocal about this. You already have the top strength of schedule literally the last 20 years. Now, have there been teams like Texas who last year hovered around the mid to lower 30s? Yes. But, Joe, let's go look at some of the teams last season that did not get in and went through brutal schedules. South Carolina was in the top 20 or was in the top 10. Georgia was the number 1 strength of schedule in the country. Ole Miss was in the top 10. Texas A&M was in the top 10. LSU was in the top 10. Do I need to keep going? Because I have a laundry list of the top 15 right here who were strength of schedule. Joe, the top 20, there were 13 teams in the SEC that hovered in that top 25 range, but there were 7 teams that hovered around the top 12. Joe, they had almost half of the top 10. So when you sit there and you look at strength of schedule and strength of record, I'm not saying you shouldn't have gone to it, but there also comes a point in time where you are already doing it from a strength of schedule standpoint. It's not just last year included. I can go year upon year about this and have a segment on AYS if you want to go listen to it of every single year. Joe, think about this. Over the last 2 decades, the SEC averages a strength of schedule of 15th. They average a strength of record 2. So you get to a situation where I don't know if the 9th conference game benefits you from on the field and necessarily in the part of you didn't really need to do it. Now, I know the fans want the extra competitive game. The Big Ten has been clamoring for weeks, for months, for years. You got to go to non-conference games. It's not equal. Buddy, you don't want to talk about equality. I'm sorry, but you don't want to talk about equality. Greg Sankey pulled a fast one on a TV guy. To your point, Greg Sankey has been a commissioner for the last 2 decades, not just in the SEC, but he was also in the Southland Conference. Hello. He knows this game. He knows what needs to be done. Joe, he went to the playoff committee behind closed doors. He got this strength of schedule and strength of record metric that is in there so that if they go to 9 conference games, it benefits his conference. This power play will be solidified as you bring up if and only if they do not go to the AQ model. If they go to the AQ model, it means nothing. Then they would have completely folded to the Big Ten. Now that you would have 11 at-large bids, why in the world is strength of record and strength of schedule is a big deal? Why would you ever go to an AQ model? It is the dumbest thing humanly possible you can do at the current moment. Now, I don't think he's going to do that. But they also implemented that you got to go outside of your conference and play a Power 4 opponent as well. Joe, I don't think that 7 teams will get in. I'm going to need to see 5, maybe even 6 to get in. I kind of need to see 5 to get in. And that might very well happen this season with that metric. I agree with you that it's a power play that they might enact here. But the Big Ten clamoring on this, they got hosed because there is no counteract to this. Now, I will just say this. Why would you do it? Like, outside of the playoff, what makes it make sense? You already ran the strength of schedule metric. Why are you making it harder for your teams? Joe,
wait, what do you mean by that?
Because let me give an example. There are 4 teams this year that already are going to play 7 ranked opponents. 7. Let's just say hypothetically this year, a team like LSU, who doesn't have Georgia or Texas on their schedule, has to play Georgia or Texas now. Joe, there's a very strong chance that they could be 8-4, 9-3, and be the number 1 strength of schedule in the country, and you have to have the God's honest conversation with yourself. They beat 4 ranked opponents, and they went 4-3, 4-4 against ranked opponents. Indiana didn't play but 2 last year, teams above 500. So what are you really going to clamor in this? How's that metric going to work? Now, here's the last thing. I don't know if the SEC actually goes to it. Let me tell you why. Because they have not enacted this yet. And not enacting it, I would ask the question, Joe, we have seen the College Football Playoff Committee change their metrics at the end of the college football selection the last 2 years. 2023, they changed their metrics in reference to getting the best teams in versus the most deserving. Remember, all year, Boo Kerrigan was talking about, hey, we want to get the teams in there that are the most deserving. Well, I'm guessing unless it's Florida State, because then we're going to put Alabama in there. Last year, it was about record and record alone. If you're 11-1, you're 11-1 and you're getting in. Joe, it was about the most deserving and the best teams to get into the 12 until the last weekend when SMU and other teams got in there. My question is, you might have done all this, but there is a little thing that you might not be able to surpass. What if they change their metrics again and they cut you out? Then you go into 9 conference games. You have killed yourself in some ways.
Okay, so I think that there's a lot to
unpacked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely no. You're not sorry. I mean, I think this is the complex nature of this. I don't think that this is just like a natural cut and dry. To not so much backtrack, but the biggest part is how does this 9-game schedule play into what the next step is for what the playoff becomes? 12 team, 16 team, whatever it is. There is a higher likelihood, I think, in my eyes at the current moment, that it sticks at 12 based on what Sankey has been doing. Him making this move and adjusting the schedule is basically a middle finger to Petiti and saying, you know, you wanted this so bad. You so badly wanted us to do this. Here you go. He, in a way, is kind of giving up a little bit of leverage to Petiti because now Petiti can't act like he's being as stubborn as he was before. I think that if this sticks at 12 is where the SEC now has so much dominance. And because they have so much of an opportunity for dominance, it gives them Sankey leverage in the negotiation to be able to push further for them to expand to the 16-team model to the format that they want. I don't think,
which is the 5+11 model.
Yes, which is the 5+11 model. So like what I'm trying to get at here is that there's no chance that this really expands further at the current moment based on what a lot of people have reported on it. A lot of people have talked about how it's kind of hit its sticking point. It doesn't seem likely that after the SEC made a change like this, that it will suddenly expand unless the Big Ten pushes off its spot. The Big Ten is going to need to relent to some degree.
Can I ask I'm just asking. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm asking the question as to have this conversation. Did Greg Sankey pull one over on Tony Batiti? Because let me say this too. Tony Batiti has not done a good job we were talking about this a month ago, Joe, at Big Ten Media Days. He has done such a horrible job at translating to the human fan base and fan bases around the country. He thinks he's just talking to Big Ten people. He's not. He's done such a horrible job at trying to win me over for more of an expanded playoff. He hasn't done it. And I think Sankey pulled one on him. Just to be honest with you, do you think he did?
Well, so this is what I'm getting at. He's done a very poor job of explaining the logic, and we've pointed out a lot of the contradictions he's had. He's done a really bad job of explaining the logic for the AQ model that he has pitched, and the reason why is because he can't outwardly share the message that he wants to. They want to expand for more money.
Bingo.
They want to have solidified spots in the playoff for more money. So this is why Sankey now holds the cards, is because he can say, we'll stick at 12. You're not getting that extra money for more teams to get in for a larger playoff field, because we now have the best chance to contribute the most teams to the playoff field. That is where the win happens with this. I agree with what you said, though. If somehow there's a chess move that we don't see coming, yeah, this really does kind of.
Did it land? Did it land? Because if it is going to be strength of schedule and strength of record, Joe, I don't know if Alabama doesn't get in over Indiana.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, they will in a situation like that. If this was to go back to something that we were talking about pre-show, you and I were having a conversation about Clemson, South Carolina. That game in that specific, and I know that's we're talking ACC teams here, but that game to me now puts South Carolina in at 9-3.
Yeah.
If strength of win matters more. Clemson gets in because they win the ACC. SMU doesn't get in. I think that then also on top of that, the argument for Indiana to not get in as well. So the Big Ten only gets 3 teams. The ACC only gets 1. The Big 12 only gets 1.
SEC gets 5.
And the rest of the playoff field is the SEC and Notre Dame and G5. I can't imagine that there's going to be an effective counter move to this by the Big Ten. I think that they're going to have to concede now that Sankey agreed to do this.
The only thing they could do is go to 10 conference games, which would be even.
Wait, hold on. Oh, that's actually extremely effed up. You think that the Big Ten would, out of spite, do 10 games?
Well, no, I don't think it's out of spite. I think they're trying. There's no mathematical equation that they could get to a tougher strength of schedule without, they're going to have to add tougher teams to their schedule. They're going to have to, because what if the playoff selection committee really uses the metric of strength of schedule? Let's just say hypothetically they do that. Then we're going to be in a situation. How in the world is the Big Ten going to do that? Joe, let me just throw a hypothetical. If I'm Greg Sankey, I'm telling every president and every AD, do not schedule a Big Ten team. Make them figure it out. Make them figure it out.
That has to be some form of collusion, or
it's not collusion.
How is that not, like, how is there not some sort of business parameter that prevents that from happening?
Hold on now. But as much as I've been on Greg Sankey's ass, let's not act like the Big Ten and Batiti have not been taking shots at the SEC for the last 6 months.
No, they have been. I'm just saying that it sounds. You're right. If I'm Sankey, I am saying to all of my athletic directors, do not schedule a Big Ten team no matter what. Schedule Notre Dame as much as you guys want. Go to the Big 12, go to the ACC. But that does feel like that should not be ethically allowed. And I don't think that there's any laws that prevent it necessarily, but it kind of does feel like.
Shouldn't have been talking shit. I mean, with all due respect, you talked a lot of shit publicly. A lot of shit. And you're not gonna Joe.
Well, but wait, but hold on one second. This is I don't mean to cut you off before you went down there. But this is the whole point why this is another reason why the Big Ten is now screwed and they're not going to be able to get what they want, because Petitti has to come with his hands out saying like, okay, can you please schedule our Big Ten teams because we need you.
Well, and why would you? But then here's the thing. You know what else he's going to probably have to cave to? A 5+11 model.
That's my point. Yeah, he's going to have to agree to that in order to get the effective scheduling.
But hold on. Let's address something here that's very key. Let's not act like that this isn't the right thing for either conference. Meaning, if there's a Big Ten team that has a top 5 strength of schedule, we will do the same exact thing for them. I think people come in here and say, oh, Blake and Joe, SEC homers. No. If the same thing applies, the same thing applies.
Right. This is where, it's very easy to kind of miss this point, as you would now create everybody having an equally competitive schedule. And this goes exactly in line with what I said a month ago.
So they're going to have to do 10 power games.
Yeah. But
some of them might have to do 11.
This is my point, is that everybody needs to have the same scheduling requirements of having to play non-conference opponents that are power opponents. And I think that once everyone has the same schedules, it eliminates the debate on who has the harder schedule.
Joe, newsflash, as of right now, I think this is going to change. As of right now, in 2027, with the 9-game conference schedule, LSU has 11 Power 4 opponents. 11. Joe, you got a team that might go 8-4 that has the number 1 overall strength of schedule, and they might go 4-3 against ranked opponents. You're like, huh? You're not going to get away with this, but there is a part of me that wonders if the playoff committee, because the playoff committee is not full of SEC people.
No, and it's not consistent either.
It's not consistent at all. So, Look, what does that say for the ACC and Big 12? Because we keep clamoring about the Big 10. We didn't even bring up the ACC and Big 12.
They're not, but because they're kind of the goofy bystanders in this whole thing. They're kind of just waiting to see what.
Is it a death knell for more than outside of the automatic qualifier?
They were already cooked. They were already in a position where the at-large was always the best thing for them, because them agreeing to take 2 at-large spots maximum was so stupid. They never should have agreed to it. So they're kind of just standing here and waiting for their 2 big brothers to finish fighting until something happens.
Listen, I don't think the SEC needed to go to 9. I do think it's dumb to wear yourself down that way. But everybody wants to talk about, they haven't won the last 2 national titles. Okay, hold on. There was always going to be a ripple effect when Saban left. Always. There was always going to be an effect when you had that many new coaches at SEC programs. No one is saying the Big Ten sucks. No one, myself included. But I do think that there comes a part in time when you have Indiana and Nebraska canceling P4 games. Joe, they got to reschedule. They got to put P4 teams on their schedule now.
That was one thought that I had, is that's going to be a cluster F, is that now Indiana and Nebraska
they're going to have to pay those teams not to play.
Yeah.
Kennesaw State, for Indiana, what do you have a team that just went up to Division I from Georgia going to play you? What are you doing?
They're probably going to – they're the biggest – those specific teams are the biggest losers, and then teams like LSU and Florida.
Well, and teams like Ohio State, Penn State, with all due regard, Oregon, those teams don't have to worry. It's the other ones that have been canceling these people.
No, it was dumb. It was dumb that they did it in the first place.
Well, I hate it for them. I do, because I do think the sport's better when you have more equality of the nation, but it is what it is. All right. Joe, we did have a week 0 game that we got to break down, and boy, the Iowa State fans were very, very fun in all of this. Maybe we should have gone over to FanDuel and taken them plus the 3.5. But nevertheless, Iowa State takes down Kansas State in Ireland. Your thoughts on how the game played out in week 0?
I did get the under on FanDuel to hit thanks to Carson Hansen falling on the 1 yard line.
Matt Campbell.
Dude, I completely like covered my face and I was just like, I was yelling at the TV. You can ask Sean. And I was just like, this, F this. And then I look up and I realized that he was kneeling it out. It was the greatest save there. But to talk specifically about this game, really difficult setting to execute effectively. The team that was going to win was going to be the one that mitigated mistakes and finished the strongest. After we saw Dylan Edwards go down, which I thought was a huge piece for this game, not having him was huge for Kansas State. Iowa State pounced on him, and they also pounced on that football, which completely gave them momentum after they had a total dud of a first drive. This game, there were a lot of areas where statistically Kansas State outperformed Iowa State. Yards per play, Kansas State 6.54 compared to 4.23, 11% explosive play rate compared to 8 for Iowa State. Third down success rate, 44% compared to 24. Total scrimmage yardage, 373 to 313. Iowa State did end up winning on the ground. And most importantly, they did not have as many silly penalties. And they also were more effective in their decision-making, in their play calling. Here is my biggest takeaway from this. Credit to Matt Campbell, the creativity, the effectiveness of what they needed to do. But I have some serious concerns on the decision-making from Kleiman in how he is handling or how he's handled the development of Avery Johnson, and Matt Wells in his play calling and how he is trying to utilize Avery Johnson. You have one of the fastest quarterbacks, and I heard a confirmed 40 time for him this spring. That dude can fly. You've got one of the fastest quarterbacks in the country, and he has 8 plays where he was a runner. He had 8 carries. That is not enough for a guy that is
actually
that athletic.
Technically 6. Technically,
oh yeah, you're right. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Right.
I miscounted there. You have an opportunity to utilize him, and they talked about this on the broadcast. So he added weight and he got bigger. He's ready for the season. He should be carrying the ball 15 times a game. Let him go be a threat. He's not a guy that takes a lot of hits too. He is one of these guys that's slippery and evades pressure, kind of like that Jaden Daniels type of a runner. He's not lowering his shoulder. Why was he not getting the ball more? Wells, for some stupid reason, decided that Avery Johnson was going to be a pocket passer and they were going to run a little bit of read option. That is the dumbest play calling decision-making that we could have possibly gotten for this game. Awful. That is not how you set up your team to succeed, and it showed up in all of the areas where they needed to make correct calls. Outcoached. That's my emphasis point. They got outcoached.
Joe, you hit the nail on the head. I have it on there too, but hold on. Let me ask you a question.
Yep. When
you go for it on 4th down and you don't get it, what is that called? A turnover on downs.
Yep.
Okay. They didn't have 2 turnovers like the score sheet says. They had 5. They went 1 for 4 on 4th down, and they lost 2 fumbles. Joe, they had 5 turnovers.
Awful.
So you look at a situation where they continued to shoot themselves in the foot. I felt as if, even if you Iowa State fans don't want to see the light at the end of the tunnel right now, here is the truth. Big play after big play after big play you missed in the 4th quarter. Joe, they're up 7. They're going to be up by 3. They're up 17-14 after this. You miss a wide open receiver on 3rd down. You got to kick a field goal. You'd already missed a field goal, but you kick a field goal, and Kansas State goes back down and goes for it on 4th down, and they don't get it. So you're in a situation where they didn't have 2 turnovers. They had 5, and that ultimately beat them. Now, I do think that they were very physical with Kansas State. And in the beginning, Joe, I didn't understand their play calling from a defensive aspect. Let me just say that too. Why in the hell are you sending a 0 blitz on 3rd and goal from the 14-yard line when you literally just got 2 sacks with only rushing 4? What are we doing? And then you had a pass interference, and I understand the toss dive fumble. Like I get all of that. But you're setting yourself up constantly, which brings me to my ultimate conclusion. Joe, I got to be real with you. I have not been on the Avery Johnson train ever. I don't think the young man right now, I know he went 21 of 30. I'm not saying he's a bad passer, but against teams that have the same level of talent that you are, He cannot get it done throwing the football when it matters the most. I don't think either one of them did. I really don't. I think Rocco Beck did a couple of deep throws against man-on-man coverage where their guys got beat. Good for him.
Yeah.
So they legitimately could not get the ball moving. Kleiman benched Will Howard at Kansas State for this kid. Will Howard then goes with Ryan Day to Ohio State, wins the job, and wins a national title. To be real with you, you got more than egg on your face right now, brother. Because this kid, to me, does not seem like he's taken any step since we saw him 2 years ago, Joe. He just doesn't. I hate that what the kid's going through right now. It's not all on him. But the play calling was atrocious, I think, on both sides of the ball. And I think that they did not set him up for success, which ultimately led them to losing.
I'm on the same page with you here, and I think that that's where the criticism needs to be aggressively directed is at Kleiman. I don't feel like he is effectively maximizing the situation ahead of him, and I don't think he's done effective enough job of maximizing the roster that he has. There are some really good athletes on this team. There are some real big playmakers that can be incredibly, incredibly impactful. And it felt like they were just doing a bread and butter, vanilla approach to scheming on both sides of the ball, but more importantly, offensively. I don't want to criticize Avery Johnson. I'm going to apologize for this kid over and over again, and maybe I'm blind for doing so. He is not a guy that should be expected to just develop into a pocket passer. He shouldn't. Maybe a more modern version of that where we don't really have a true drop back guys, but he needs to be set up to be a runner first. That is where I'm going to continue to harp because they were able to generate splash plays from a number of their receivers. You had these long passing touchdowns that you were able to generate. You ended up getting early in the first
coverages. In blown coverages. It's not like they gave them to you.
Right. You were able to generate these big plays. But the one guy that could have really broken the game open, that there was no creative decision-making, you didn't enable him to do so. I will say, just to throw in here, though, I liked watching that Carson Hansen kid run, man. That Iowa State running back runs hard as shit.
Him and Sam are really really good 1-2 punch.
So that was the big area I think that we were wrong. We were correct on the fact that their receivers had really shaky day with drops. They have a good tight end room. It's nothing like crazy good, but we really underestimated that running back tandem. That's my biggest regret coming into this game because that was the deciding factor. They were pretty evenly matched on both lines of scrimmage.
Well, hold on now. Hold on. Let me stop you. Bullshit. They ran for 2.8 yards per carry.
But in the second half, they started to break through.
But when you keep having 3 and outs and you're on the field for as long as they were, Joe, they got killed in the time of possession. The second half, they had 4 3 and outs. They tried to go for it 3 times on 4th down and didn't get it. They couldn't do anything to help their defense, and they broke in the end. I'm not saying you're wrong. I like how Hansen ran the ball. The same time, you ran for 2.8 yards per carry. Bullshit.
Well, but I think wait, but hold on. They gave up 4 sacks. So is that yards per carry average including the 4 sacks?
Same thing goes for Avery Johnson, though. Like I get what you're saying there, but at the same time, even if you equate it, you get to a situation where they didn't run the ball completely effectively either. They were fine, but they still didn't run it effectively to what we're talking about. I'm not crowning them.
Okay, I was trying to see if I could find. I have a good stat page that tells me.
You got sacked 4 times, right? And you had the lost fumble.
We don't need to do the math right at the.
Even if it's 40 yards, if it's 40 yards, it's still 3.3 yards per carry.
But here's the biggest key, though. They might have been inconsistent, but where Matt Campbell deserves credit. You win football games, close football games, when you execute when the game matters the most. Kansas State was outperforming them. At the beginning of the segment, I read off all of the areas that they outperformed them, explosive plays, yards, all that stuff. But when they needed to convert in short areas, they converted. They put their head down and they converted. Kansas State.
The delay tight end pass by Rocco Beck was beautifully called by Iowa State. Beautiful.
The play where Hansen went down at the 1, that was a really good play where he
4th and 1 and you throw it into the flat. I mean, you rub route. I mean, beautiful. They outcoached Kleiman and company.
It was extremely stark. That's the biggest thing for me is when you get a game like this, it's jarring to see the separation in the preparedness. And I'm saying execution 100 times over, but it's really important for the narrative that we're building here. I've read too many articles when I was doing prep for today that were kind of talking about how both these teams still have a shot in the Big 12. I don't have a lot of faith in Kansas State after the way that they played today. I think that they could still be in the mix by the end of the year, but that's because the conference is so big. And like last season, there's probably going to be 5 teams that are within 1 loss of being in the mix. They're not going to win the conference. I'm not picking Kansas State. I had them at 8th in the preseason, and people shit on me.
You did. And listen, I'm not picking Iowa State either.
I think Iowa State has a veteran group. I just need to see a little bit.
They had a team that completely pissed down their leg and had 5 turnovers.
I don't disagree with that. I think that there's something there, but they need to. The receiving room needs to not have as many drops as they did. Like that was atrocious. I don't care about the weather. It stopped raining after the first quarter. The drops that they had should not have been happening.
I'm all on the bandwagon, baby.
Hey man,
Raiders.
Well, here's, by the way, this is before we do the Tennessee
no bias to Texas Tech whatsoever. No bias, but yes, there's bias.
I'm just trying to say, though, last year the team that won the Big 12 was Arizona State, and they were big splash play with a lot of great athletes all over the field.
Yes.
Colorado, one of the most exciting teams last year, big splash plays. The Big 12 is about athletes in space. I'm going with the teams that have the best athletes in space.
Name a league that it's not?
Well, I think that the Big 10 is a lot more grind you down into the ground, and you can win with that approach.
Hold on 1 second. Hey, look, we're getting called by Jeremiah Smith. Hey, Jay Smith, are you not the best athlete in the country?
He is the best athlete. I'm not saying that unathletic guys in the Big 10. I'm saying that it's a lot more of a physical style. Jeremiah Smith's the definition of physicality.
You are correct. I mean, there's a look at Michigan. Toss dive, baby.
That's my point.
Look, in reference to Rocco Beck, I will say this. I thought it was hilarious, absolutely hilarious, that fan base came after me for saying he's a 50% completion percentage guy.
And we were worried about their receivers.
And he went 50%.
And the rain got brought up. Like, I don't want to be a dick about this, but the rain got brought up, and Avery Johnson, who you guys yelled about for being awful and were also chirping about, had a better completion percentage. That's my point. How
about this? Do his career.
Look, all I'm saying is, can we just be realistic? Can we, just because a guy has a solid game and your team wins?
We're not going to do the Danny Cannell and say he's the most underrated player in the country.
That was the worst. I actually like Danny Cannell. That was the worst tweet of the day. He knew what he was doing. He was pandering. He's pandering to Iowa State fans. I'm not fucking pandering to Iowa State fans.
I would.
Pardon my language.
All right. Let's wrap it up here with this. Joe, we have another week 1 game, and I'm assuming tomorrow we'll continue and do some shorter segments on the week 1. I guess we'll see. I don't really know what we're doing.
We're kind of out of games to talk about.
Well, we can kind of recap them again. Who knows?
Okay.
Joe, but we have our last game that we're going to get to week 1 here as we've done. God, thank you, sweet Jesus. It's here. Joe, if you're having a bad week, week 1's here, college football's here. So it can't be a bad week, but you look at a situation. This is the last game that we're going to do. So let's talk about it. Tennessee, Syracuse, the battle of literally for the orange. Who is the real orange? Who will stand up? Joe, when you look at Syracuse versus Tennessee, a lot of teams with a lot of changes. How do you see this one playing out this upcoming week?
Blake, this is quite the disappointing game to preview because I felt like before the spring portal opened and some of these departures happened for Syracuse, this could have been a fun game, but it still would have been a tall task for Syracuse to beat Tennessee. I think that this Tennessee defense can really set the tone early. And I think that we're forgetting with some of the turnover that Tennessee had and the headlines that came from Nico in that drama, we forget that this Tennessee squad brings back a lot of playing time and a lot of big name athletes. I know that Jermon McCoy, it sounds like, is not going to be available, but they're pretty well recruited in that room. They're very well recruited on their defensive line. I have high hopes for what Joshua Josephs does this season. I think that this is going to be a game, Blake, where we're reminded that this team has a dominant defense and their success is going to be built off of that because they're dealing with a guy who has barely started in Steve Angeli. He's got a completely new wide receiver room after most of the top guys dipped and went elsewhere. I think that this is going to be an intriguing game to watch, but Tennessee should win this thing pretty handedly.
So Syracuse, when you look at him, they got Jonte Cook. I don't know if he's there. I have no idea what's happening there. But here's the thing with Syracuse that's very interesting. They have 4 new offensive linemen: Zach Rice, Austin Collins, TJ Ferguson, and Cam Pringle. And Cam Pringle is a freshman. I look at Syracuse and I look at Tennessee and say, you're right, Joe. I mean, I know James Pierce is no longer there. The biggest kept secret, okay, that we kind of come to know here is the simple fact and simple nature that Tennessee defensively under Heupel has been just as impressive in moments and times than they have been offensively. When you're going in with a new quarterback who got there during spring, or after spring, you're going in there with a brand new offensive line. Trevor Pena is not there. Some of these guys that you want are not there that you did have. I don't know what they're going to look like offensively. But, man, I also didn't know what they were going to look like last year either. And they came out there and they were the number 1 team in the country throwing the football. And I know one thing, they're going to sling it. And if you have a corner down, arguably one of the better corners in the country down, what does that look like? I don't think Steve Angeli's bad. I wonder how much pressure he's going to be under all day long. However, I look at Tennessee's offense, and Joey Aguilar is going to be the starting quarterback for Tennessee. Joe, he had 20 turnovers the season ago. 20. You want to keep a team around? Turn the football over. You have a situation at Tennessee at wide receiver that is a very, very, very good one. Can some of these guys who we think that could be very good, like Mike Matthews, Brazel, Staley, does one of these freshman guys step up and do some really good things, like does Jackson or Travis Smith? Can they get into the fold there? I don't know. One thing I do know, though, is if Mike Matthews and Brazel hit on their potential, you have a really big situation here at Tennessee. Joe, I have no idea what to expect from Tennessee offensively. Dylan Sampson's not there anymore, the SEC Player of the Year. Did you fix that offensive line? They went out in the middle of, or they went out in the portal, got Pendleton and got Mo that is going to start a guard for them. If that is, Joe, I think Tennessee's going to win. But Aguilar in this offense kind of scares me a little, and everybody doesn't want to say that because it's Josh Heupel. Joe, he turned the ball over a lot last year. Does he clean that up at all? Because if he doesn't, you keep teams in games that way.
That's the biggest thing that I'm tracking for this game because, like, I want to see what the Joey Aguilar experience is going to be like. If he's making mistakes and he's turning the ball over against Syracuse in this game, then we have ourselves a serious problem. Syracuse actually has like a decent quality secondary. So if he's not on point with his decision-making, it's going to lead to some issues. An area where I think that Tennessee has an unexpected advantage in this game, but could have an advantage throughout the year. You mentioned the offensive line. Lance Hurd, once highly recruited kid, already there last year, inconsistently available with some health stuff, but still really quality player. I think that Pendleton is perfect for what they needed, a guard coming from Notre Dame, and get me having watched him at Notre Dame last year. Wendell Moe is one of the most underrated adds to this offensive line. This is squatty, big guard that came in from Arizona. That dude is like a forklift. So there's a chance that he ends up being a great player for them. The swinging point in a way is what we get from David Sanders. And I feel like he could be one of those kids that's just jumps in right away. Maybe he has a rough game or so against like a really talented pass rusher. That's not going to happen against Syracuse. How does he do jumping into the mix for this game? I think that he is going to play tremendously well. I want to throw out there, though, you mentioned the receiver room. Like, we need to get more stuff from Brazel. We need to get more stuff from Mike Matthews. Like, there are guys with recognizable names. One player that is going incredibly under the radar, and I know historically Heupel has not really been a tight end production guy, but Miles Kitselman, they also have Ethan Davis, who's been quite hyped up, but Kitselman's their starting tight end and could be a player that ends up rising in draft circles. I think that there is a very underrated amount of weaponry that is available to Aguilar, but it all comes down to, is Heupel capable of reeling in the chaotic decision-making? I think that in a vacuum, with no variables in play, one would think this type of an offense where you want rapid decision-making, which is the opposite of Nico, who was constantly timid and hesitant, might work. But he can't be taking blind risks, and he can't be making incorrect reads when he's making those decisions, because that will make a game like this against Syracuse that will be pretty well coached on defense to allow them to take advantage of it.
Let's go to Syracuse defensively. Joe, all right now.
You getting that?
Dude, they got some dudes now. They got some playmakers. Don't get fooled. They went out and got David Reese and Chris Thomas and George Rooks on their defensive line. I've seen their defensive coordinator do this before in front of my eyes. Hey, who in the hell is this kid at A&M? Wait a minute. Wait, that's not the 5-star that was there. Who was that kid? Oh, wait, he got drafted. Wait, who is that? They might have done it again. Now, you bring up Pendleton, you bring up Moe. If they're who you think that they're going to be, then my point is mute. I love Fran Brown. I do. I've said this 1,000 times on this show. If Fran Brown came and knocked on my door and said, hey, I want to recruit your son, regardless of what Ben Ruffino wants to do, we are taking Syracuse seriously. And we always will with Fran Brown. I love him to death. Joe, I think they can come out there and give Tennessee some issues. I really do. I just think the athletes at the end of this is going to supersede it, and Tennessee wins. But something is telling me don't go all in on Tennessee. I'm kind of fading a little bit. I don't know if I can trust Aguilar. And the biggest way you keep teams in games, especially when you're more talented than them, is when you start turning that ball over. That starts happening, Joe, and you don't reel that in, bad things will start happening. And here's my real question. How long of a leash does Joey Aguilar have?
Well, I don't know how they value Merklinger and the rest of that quarterback room. I don't think they have much of a choice.
Too damn good. Defensively, Tennessee's just too damn good for me to say this isn't going to happen, and they're going to get upset. I'm not saying that. But, man, Joe, something's like, man, I need to see this.
They're on FanDuel. They're a 13.5-point favorite right now. I kind of lean towards taking them to cover that. I understand the concerns, because in a game like this, when turnover luck is what shifts an outcome when we have a spread this big, they could play a phenomenal first 2.5 quarters. And then Aguilar could make the goofiest mistake in the world, and he did this literally at App State all of the time. There's just the one throw where you're sitting there, eyes wide open, saying out loud, what just happened? It just takes one of those with an emotional leader who's great at rallying his team in Fran Brown to rally around that. That to me is the path here. And like, that's the kind of the outlook for this game. You have a more talented team with an uncertain, undecided quarterback. You've got a very gifted defense on the team, facing off with the Syracuse squad that is resetting quite a bit from last year with a tremendous up-and-coming coach. Turnovers will decide the outcome. If Aguilar's clean, they cover. It's a 13.5-point spread on FanDuel that they can cover and accomplish. I say that one pick is enough for this game to end up being closer than people expect.
Tennessee's just way more, I don't want to say way more talented. They're just the more talented team, top to bottom. Joe, the last thing I got here, Tennessee is replacing the SEC Player of the Year. And we saw Tennessee, whether people want to admit it or not, try to be as physical as they could with the offensive line that I don't think it was ready for that. I think they were ready for Nico to kind of take a step and have Dylan Sampson be a really good a counterpunch to that. Can Deshaun Bishop, can Star Thomas, can Peyton Lewis, can that trio of running backs carry this team yet again? Because they're going to need to do it early with a guy who might not be up to speed on every single thing that needs to happen here too.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces for both these teams. And I think that's what, like, a game like this is not as sexy as the other games on the slate. And it's probably not a game that many people are putting on the primary TV except for Syracuse.
It's going on during Texas Ohio State.
Right. Wait, this is an early game? I thought
it was an 11 a.m. kickoff.
You might be correct. That's my fault. I wrote down the wrong time. It's not going to get the big eyes.
I could be wrong. I thought I saw 11 a.m.
I'm going to double check in a second, but it's not going to get a lot of eyes from a national perspective because it's not your typical premier matchup. But I think that the way that both these teams play, even if Tennessee wins like we're projecting them to,
11 a.m.
We learn a lot about both these teams.
Hold on. Does this say on FS? No, I thought that said FS1. It said FBS. I was like, Fox getting a
second game.
SEC game? No way. Anyway, so yeah, we'll see. I'm going to take Tennessee, but man, Aguilar scares me. The boy Dale with a $2 super chat says, who y'all got, the Johnson family or y'all's internet in a fight? The Johnson family. Our internet sucks. We're not going to fight for our internet.
No, I mean the Johnson family would kick the shit out of our internet. I think that there's just some preseason jitters by the internet. I think that they're going to be out of the way. I think we're going to be good. That was on me, by the way. That was on me, which is a good sign that, knock on wood, your internet is doing well.
Don't say Rudy Poo stuff like that.
I knocked on wood.
I mean, look, I got it. Listen, I opened the show Wednesday night on AYS like this. I'll just go ahead and tell you. I've spent a lot of money to do this and done a lot of things from the internet's perspective. I have a 700 download, but I have a 30 upload. For all of you, just go to Google and do a speed test. I don't know how that works. They said that they're making it better. I'm paying for 1 gig and can't even get 1 gig. That's the thing that's really making me mad.
When we're big time one day, we'll get our own satellite. That's what's going to happen.
They better put me in the mean streets of business Manhattan like they did when Warner Brothers brought us out there, and they're going to keep me in that hotel and my family 24/7 and teleporters back to Louisiana every day.
I don't think anyone's going to do that for you.
Well,
I would. That'd be great. It sounds great.
Elon better start figuring it out. That's all I do. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Week 1 is here. We'll talk a lot of week 1 as well. Joe, we've made it, brother. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a great day. Peace.